Live. How about a twofer? Like a twofer from your president?
How about a little Ghislaine, a little Diddy?
A little Ghislaine, a little Diddy, or sorry, Puffy. Yes, President Trump was asked about both of those people. This is the twofer. One,
those people?
Yeah, Ghislaine Maxwell and Puffy.
It began quietly with a letter, not a headline, a courtroom appearance, or a flashy press release, but a message delivered through private channels to Donald Trump, a man who once clinked glasses with him at Manhattan galas and publicly called him a friend. Now seated in the White House, Trump held that letter like a prize, and when reporters asked whether he would pardon Diddy, he answered with a smirk, saying the request came in a letter before casually adding, almost tauntingly, "Would you like to see it?" The room went silent. He never revealed the letter, and that omission was the point, a calculated display of power that said everything without showing a single word.
If the
In
judge,
October, right.
In October 3rd, if the judge denies bail, then Trump is going to make a decision possibly immediately thereafter.
Most likely, the judge is going to, based on previous decisions, it feels like the judge is going to.
We could hardly believe it. The same Diddy who once boasted about being untouchable, the mogul who turned bad boy into a cultural empire, was now quietly asking for mercy. Trump's team confirmed the letter, while Diddy's camp said nothing. No denial, no statement, just silence. As if the oxygen had been drained from his legacy overnight. This wasn't gossip or a party rumor. This was a man who helped shape hip-hop culture, appealing to a president he once publicly mocked, hoping to avoid life behind bars. Trump shut it down immediately and did it publicly, making sure everyone heard. "I'm not considering it," he told reporters without hesitation. That's when it became clear this wasn't just about justice, it was about history. Trump doesn't forget slights. The two once ran in the same New York circles in the late 90s, smiling for cameras and trading praise. But that relationship shattered when Trump ran for president in 2016 and Diddy turned vocal against him. What had been mutual respect hardened into resentment, something Trump later all but admitted when he said people don't like having their judgment clouded. Translation: cross him once and you're done. So when Diddy's letter arrived, Trump didn't just see a plea, he saw leverage, a moment tailor-made for spectacle. And true to form, he leaned into it, joking to Newsmax that Diddy was sort of half-innocent, tossing off the remark like late-night humor. Imagine hearing that from the most powerful man in the world while you're sitting behind bars.
Was, Your Honor, I will accept the Mann Act, but I feel like I was targeted by a weaponized Justice Department, and I now understand what President Trump was saying when he said that happened to him, because we have similar things that happen, and I appreciate what he was saying now. I didn't understand it then, but I understand it now.
That's real simple for you to.
Insiders claim Diddy's camp had been working this route for months, quietly courting people in Trump's orbit and even dangling what one Washington source described as six-figure incentives just to secure introductions. It was the oldest trick in politics, influence dressed up as networking, but it failed. Word around D.C. is that Trump's inner circle read it as pure desperation, with one aide allegedly saying, he wants out more than he wants redemption, and that assessment fits the moment. By then, Diddy's world had already collapsed. 2 guilty verdicts, a 50-month sentence, and a swarm of civil lawsuits circling like sharks. He'd fallen from penthouses and Grammys to an 8x10 cell at Brooklyn's Metropolitan Detention Center, a place former inmates describe as freezing, violent, and soul-crushing, the same facility that's held figures like R. Kelly and Ghislaine Maxwell. Steel bed, inch-thin mattress, no pillow. The contrast is almost poetic. A man who once threw million-dollar parties now fighting to endure daily life behind bars. Even Trump's former fixer Michael Cohen piled on, noting that Diddy was now staring at cinderblock walls instead of mansion decor. Yet the letter itself remains the most haunting detail. No one knows what it said or when it was sent. Trump never produced it, and that mystery alone has fueled endless speculation. Did Diddy beg, confess, or offer something of value? Trump's teasing, "Would you like to see it?" only deepened the intrigue, suggesting the note might contain more than a simple plea. The irony cuts deeper when you remember Trump once publicly called Diddy a nice guy, insisting they got along until politics soured the relationship. And then came the most revealing moment of all, when Trump shrugged to the press that knowing someone is fine until you run for office and they make terrible statements, which makes it more difficult. It wasn't just commentary, it was a confession. Trump was saying the quiet part out loud. His grudges aren't personal quirks, they're policy.
I was very friendly with him. I got along with him great, and seemed like a nice guy. I didn't know him well. But when I ran for office, he was very hostile.
He said some not so nice things about you, sir.
Yeah, and
yes.
it's hard, like you, we're human beings.
Right.
And we don't like to have things cloud our judgment, right? But when you knew someone and you were fine, and then you run for office and he made some
Diddy's team tried to downplay the moment, quietly insisting he was simply appealing a sentence they claimed was excessive. But behind the scenes, the mood shifted fast. Sources say that once word of the letter spread, the atmosphere around the White House hardened, with whispers that Trump wouldn't just refuse to help, but might also step aside if prosecutors pushed even harder. Suddenly, the idea that Diddy might never get out stopped sounding like gossip and started feeling real, a brutal reminder of how quickly influence disappears. It's easy to imagine Trump at his desk, recalling those old New York nights, the red carpets, the photos where they stood shoulder to shoulder, now staring at Diddy's name on prison paperwork. Trump has always loved symmetry like that. One man builds an empire, the other decides whether it collapses or is left to burn. The irony runs deeper when you remember that during the trial Trump had already been commenting from afar, calling Diddy half innocent, joking about the messiness of the case, then brushing it off with a cold laugh about him still being in jail. That indifference wasn't political distance, it was personal. Trump didn't see a musician in trouble, he saw a former ally turned enemy. And this was his victory lap. Insiders close to Diddy say the rejection hit hard, that behind closed doors he's spiraling, desperate, willing to do anything to get out, language that doesn't sound like a mogul but like a man trapped. Fans are divided, some calling Trump's refusal karma, others seeing it as pure political theater. One man's downfall turned into another man's flex. Either way, the outcome is the same. Trump owns the moment and Diddy remains locked up. What lingers is the mystery of that letter. For a president who loves receipts, Trump never showed it, and history suggests when he hides something, it's not mercy. Maybe he's saving it, waiting for the right rally, the right campaign moment, the perfect time to pull it out and hold it up like a trophy.
No, it's more difficult. It makes it more, I'm being honest, it makes it more difficult to do.
But more likely a no for Combs.
For Trump, the real punishment has never been prison. It's humiliation, and Diddy, a man defined by luxury, dominance, and excess, has become the perfect embodiment of that fall. But the story may not be finished. Some insiders claim the outright refusal to pardon could still evolve into something more calculated, quiet conversations about a commutation instead of a pardon, a deal that might set Diddy free while binding him to a permanent debt of loyalty. If that's true, then the letter Trump is holding isn't a conclusion at all, it's leverage, the opening move in something darker. And just as the political drama simmered, whispers began leaking out of the Brooklyn detention facility itself. First from guards, then from people tied to Diddy's old circle, rumors that something had gone wrong behind those heavy metal doors. According to a friend, Charlucci Finney, one night Diddy woke up to a blade pressed against his throat. The man holding it never struck, just stared, delivering what Finney described as a message rather than an attack. If he wanted to hurt him, he would have, Finney told reporters. No blood was spilled, but in a place inmates describe as hell on earth, a warning like that carries weight. It wasn't violence, it was a signal, and in prison, signals are often more terrifying than the act itself.
A claim that somebody held a knife to his throat. He woke up and this guy basically had him and he had the knife and Diddy was at this person's mercy. Now, it's unclear what exactly happened from there. Was there a guard that came in? Did Diddy somehow fight this person off? Well, it seems unlikely that happened. Or did the person just leave? Bottom line, this guy, at least according to people close to Diddy and Diddy himself, could have hurt him badly or even taken his life.
When we looked at the timing, it turned unsettling. The incident reportedly occurred just after Diddy's legal team filed another appeal and only days after Trump publicly mocked the pardon letter again, making it feel as if the walls were closing in from every direction. His attorneys had pleaded for a transfer, even offering his $48 million Miami mansion for house arrest. But the judge rejected it outright, labeling him a flight risk. Now the man who once hosted lavish white parties for Hollywood's elite was confined to a concrete cell, sleeping on a steel bed without a pillow. Michael Cohen, who has served time himself, summed it up brutally, saying Diddy was staring at cinderblock walls instead of the decor of his mansions. The Metropolitan Detention Center's reputation only deepens the sense of dread, with power outages, violence, and high-profile inmates like R. Kelly, Ghislaine Maxwell, and Martin Shkreli all having passed through its doors, each name synonymous with disgrace. Diddy has now joined that list, reduced from mogul to inmate number, and people close to him describe him as furious, restless, paranoid, and convinced he's being targeted, though it's impossible to know how much is fear and how much is reality. Rumors spread quickly, some claiming the incident was staged to force a transfer, others insisting it was a warning sent from the outside. The strangest whispers suggest Trump's inner circle mocked the situation, with one aide allegedly joking that Diddy should have written a better letter, a cruel remark that nonetheless fits the moment, as former allies now treat his name like a punchline. Meanwhile, the appeal itself reads like a last-ditch gamble, arguing that others convicted under the same Century-Old Man Act served far shorter sentences and accusing the judge of acting like a 13th juror by leaning too heavily on the freak-off evidence. Behind the sterile legal language lies a harsh truth. Diddy is being portrayed as a man who weaponized power, and when the judge declared that good works cannot erase what he did, it struck at the core of a persona built entirely on control.
I'm happy to go. So we think that's just absolutely inconsistent with the jury's verdict. I mean, the jury's verdict was resoundingly clear. There was no trafficking, there was no racketeering, everything was consensual, everything was adult, which is why he was convicted only of the offense. What we feel happened today was that the judge acted as a 13th juror, one that we did not choose, and that he second-guessed the jury.
We began connecting the dots between the legal collapse and the personal fallout, and the picture is bleak. His Miami properties are reportedly sitting nearly abandoned, staff dismissed, deals frozen in place. The record label's social accounts have gone silent, and brands that once chased his endorsement now treat his name like something radioactive. At the same time, details of his prison life keep spilling into tabloids, stories of tantrums, paranoia, and alleged rivalries inside the unit. One New York Post report even claimed he was jealous of another inmate drawing more attention. An almost surreal image of a man once addicted to the spotlight now struggling to matter within a prison pecking order. There's also talk of strange alliances, with former rivals expressing sympathy through attorneys and ex-employees quietly sending commissary money. A cinematic reversal where fear has turned into pity. As one producer put it privately, he used to scare people. Now people just feel sorry for him. That's not a transformation any rebrand can fix, and despite his lawyer's efforts, the momentum feels irreversibly gone. Each court rejection another nail, each rumor a reminder that the empire has gone cold. Yet the most haunting element may not be the case or even the prison stories, but the missing letter Trump waved like bait and never revealed. No journalist has seen it, no aide has confirmed its contents, and the New York Times describing it as personal has only fueled speculation. Did it contain a confession, an offer, a compromise no one knows about? The fact that Trump still holds it, unseen and unexplained, makes the entire saga feel less like politics and more like leverage waiting to be used.
This is going to be a great PR thing for Trump. So how do things get leaked? They get leaked when people want you to know what might be happening. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Now, at the same time as this news came, like literally right before this news broke, there was a notice filed by Diddy's attorney, Alexandra Shapiro, who is in charge of his appeal. And they basically just put the court on notice that in 4 to 6 weeks, they're going to be appealing the sentence.
People close to Diddy say that letter is now haunting him, not because it proves guilt, but because it exposes desperation, and in his world that's worse than failure. Others believe Trump is holding onto it for his own purposes, following a familiar pattern of never wasting a useful secret, saving it to deploy later. If that's true, Denying the pardon may have been only the visible move in a much larger game. Meanwhile, life inside MDC Brooklyn remains brutal, with reports of staff shortages, inmates going weeks without proper showers, and violence erupting over minor disputes, including a fatal attack last summer that shattered any illusion of safety. Diddy's lawyers warned the judge that these conditions made preparing an appeal nearly impossible, but the court was unmoved, uninterested in comfort or optics, reinforcing the harsh irony that being half innocent, as Trump joked, still earns a full sentence. What's most striking is the industry's silence. No public support, no celebrity campaigns, no nostalgic solidarity from those who once wore free puff shirts. Just a collective pause as everyone waits to see which way the wind blows. Insiders even whisper that a second letter may exist, sent months later through intermediaries tied to Trump world lobbyists, suggesting the story is looping rather than ending. And each time Trump is asked about it, he offers the same smirk and evasive answer, as if he's content letting the tension linger.
According to this source, Trump is going back and forth on this, and there are some White House staff that are saying, don't do it, leave it alone, he wasn't supporting you. But the source made it clear Trump is going to do what he wants, so it could happen as early as this week. Now, y'all.
What's been simmering beneath all of this is the question of who's really talking, because the spotlight is no longer fixed solely on Diddy, but is drifting toward the people who once moved in his orbit. Names from the old bad boy circle, socialites from those glittering Miami nights, and even a few recognizable faces from his notorious private gatherings are now rumored to be cooperating with investigators. Multiple sources claim the FBI has quietly reopened parts of its 2025 probe, not due to new physical evidence, but because new witnesses have stepped forward. The quiet talk is that at least two major figures from Diddy's party scene have been sharing details about what truly happened during those so-called freak-off weekends, with one possibly being a celebrity who once appeared in his music videos. It's a familiar pattern. Empires don't collapse from the top down. They fracture from the entourage inward, through assistants, security, and background guests who become the weakest links. What makes this moment different is how far those connections reach, with some Hollywood attendees, once dismissed as casual guests, now reportedly named in sealed filings as potential witnesses. Even if only part of this is true, the damage is already done, as old red carpet photos and archived Instagram posts are being scrutinized like evidence, and sudden account purges and privacy switches are reading to the public as panic, and panic rarely appears without something to hide.
And what's really going to be interesting is the parade of celebrities who we expect to be mentioned and or called into that courtroom. You know, people who we hadn't heard about prior, like Mike Myers, you know, Austin Powers, Mike Myers, why is he getting called? Why is he on the witness list? That'll be fascinating. And then, of course, there are the no-name, quote unquote, women who are going to have to find every ounce of courage they have.
The deeper this goes, the more it feels like Diddy's collapse is dragging others down with him, as insiders whisper that the FBI's reach may extend far beyond music into fashion, nightlife, and even tech investors who backed his later ventures. It's as if everyone who once profited from his brand is now racing to erase their fingerprints, with lawyers scrambling, NDAs being re-examined, and publicists quietly scrubbing old associations. Evidence or not, the fear alone has already rewritten reputations, and in Hollywood that's a punishment by itself. Even behind bars, the irony is sharp. The man who once said can't stop, won't stop, is now confined to a cell where every moment of his life is controlled, serving time for crimes tied to power while having none of it left. It's hard not to wonder if that's exactly the point Trump wanted to make, that power isn't permanent and even the untouchable can end up pleading with ink on paper. The appeals are still pending. The violence inside that jail hasn't eased, and that missing letter remains unseen. If it ever surfaces, it may expose more than just Diddy's case, revealing a wider web of influence and motives. So the question lingers. Was this justice or vengeance disguised as law, a message sent through denial or leverage too dangerous to reveal? You decide, and keep watching, because in stories like this, the truth never stays locked up forever.